guys, I'm so excited for today's video because today we're going to be playing with another Blendbunny product, and if you're new to my channel, Blendbunny is one of my absolute favorite brands. I think that their quality is absolutely amazing. I love the concepts that they've come out with, and today we're going to be playing with the palette that is actually launching today, so this should be available as you're seeing this video. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get a video up with this before, but we were actually out of town the last couple of days. We were in Utah at an Airbnb with my husband's family, so I kind of just got back and I'm able to film again. So we're going to be testing out this palette, and like I said, it is available right now if you're interested. There is also a brush set in this collection, which is really pretty, so we're going to be testing out both of these today. This is the Forget Me Not palette, and it's a face and eye palette. So I'm going to try it on the face, I'm going to try it on the eyes, we're going to see what the quality is like, and that's pretty much going to be the video. So as you can see from the inside of the palette is quite a neutral, very basic palette, which is exactly what it was supposed to be. You know, it's supposed to be like an everyday thing that you can use for your face and for your eyes. And it would probably also make for a really nice travel palette. As you guys know, I always bring my Blendbunny palettes when I travel because I think they're just perfect for that. So I could definitely see myself adding this one into the rotation if I end up liking the formulas and the colors in here. So without further ado, I guess let's just go ahead and try out this palette. As someone who's not really into contour, I'm having a little bit of a hard time being like, what am I gonna do with all of these? Like, I'm not really someone who goes for these kind of colors, so I'm thinking I'll use this one as my bronzer shade, and if I need to mix it with something I can do that. That's basically why the pink and the white is in here, so that you can kind of customize the colors if you feel like you need to adjust them a little bit. So I'm just going to start with this one, see what it looks like on its own. This is a shade called Anticipation. I feel like a lot of people are probably going to be using this one as a bronzer. I'm going to use my Rephr brush because the brush that is in here is a little bit too big for what I like for my bronzer. I have a very small face. I'm a petite person, so I prefer using smaller brushes. I'll try to use that brush for the blush, which I think I'll probably use this same shade and mix it with the pink one. That's sort of my idea here. So I don't have anything on my face except for just my foundation and concealer and powder. Ooh, that color is actually working much better than I was expecting as a bronzer. I thought maybe it would be a little too warm tone, but it reminds me a little bit of the Pat McGrath one actually that I have. I feel like that one is also sort of warm tone. That is really cute. Now, I'm sorry in advance, I'm not someone who really contours or, you know, does a lot of steps. I'm not going to do it just for this video because I simply don't really know how to. So I feel like it wouldn't be fair to the palette if I try to like start contouring my face and my nose when I really have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm going to use the shades in here that I feel like I will, you know, actually get some use out of on a daily basis. And I can definitely see myself using this as a bronzer because that is really pretty, and I love the formula of it. I feel like the formulas in here are a little bit more forgiving than the ones that were in the blush palettes. I could be wrong though, but just as like my first dip into it and putting it on, it definitely doesn't seem as pigmented of a formula as the blushes, which makes me happy because I struggle a little bit with those to just not get them to be too pigmented, especially like the very bold colors. I wish were a little bit less pigmented, but of course having pigmented blushes is good for, you know, deeper skin tones, and so I totally get that. Let's see, I'm gonna try and see if I can use this as a blush as well. So let's go ahead and take this, and I'm gonna first dip it into this shade and then kind of dip it in here and just sort of mix them together and see how that goes. That might be a little too light to be a blush, a little too gray tone. Let's go in with a little bit more of this one over the top just to kind of see. Okay, so I feel like that works. It's not like my favorite color as a blush, if I'm being honest, but it definitely works, and I can see myself trying to like do more mixing with these because I do really enjoy mixing to create shades that I want. And I do that with my Blendbunny eyeshadow palettes all the time. Like, I'm always dipping into two different colors to see if I can like lighten up a color to make it more of a pastel and stuff like that. This is a very soft brush, by the way, so if you like brushes of this shape and size, you're really gonna like this. Actually, that looks very nice. Not gonna lie, I'm not mad at that. I think that actually kind of worked as a blush and a bronzer, so that's cool. Now, like I said, I'm not gonna be able to use a ton more of these shades on my eyes. I am gonna use, or on my face, I am gonna use them on my eyes, obviously. Let's go ahead and do a highlight. I feel like this one is going to be a little too icy for what I prefer in my highlighter. These are very much like a more of a putty type formula than the Noctilucent palette. I feel like the Noctilucent palette is way more kind of sparkly and these are more metallic. So I think I'm going to mix these two. Let's try this one on its own first. I do think it's going to be a little too dark for me, so I think I'm going to have to mix them. But let's go ahead and try it anyway. I'm the kind of person who I don't really like super... My husband just got home. I don't like super light highlighters on my skin tone because I feel like they just give me a little bit of a gray cast. So I'm going in very lightly with this, as you can see. I'm sure if I went in heavier, it would be a lot more pigmented. I just want to see if I can use it on its own, and I feel like I actually can. It's maybe a little too dark, so I am going to layer the lighter sort of champagne shade over the top, but I do feel like I could get away with that. So I'm going to take some of the shade called Cheers as well, which is this one, and I'm just going to go ahead and layer that over the top. Again, I'm using a very, very, very fluffy brush because I don't want this to be like metallic. I just want to have like a light dusting of this. I think that actually looks really pretty. Like these two mixed together, I think is better for me. And I think if I actually mix them together on my brush, it would look even better than trying to lay them on top of each other. But this is a beautiful formula. I really like that. It's very much like a bridal formula. I feel like this palette so far would be great if you're a makeup artist, and to have this, like, you could basically do anyone's makeup. I think this is really pretty so far. So let's go ahead and move on to the eyes. I'm probably just gonna do a very basic look today. I did end up getting these when I made my last Ulta order, and these are the Half Magic neon face gems. I wanted to get these when the brand first launched, but they were out of stock when I made my order, so I thought maybe we could put some of these on just to, you know, spice up the look a little bit in the end. But for the most part, I'm just gonna do a very, very basic neutral look just so we can see how these perform as eyeshadows. I want to see if they're like the same formula as her eyeshadows are, since these aren't marketed like just as eyeshadows. I have a feeling that maybe these might be a little less pigmented, but also they might not, because when I swatched the darker ones, they swatched really nicely, and the lighter ones swatched kind of lighter than I was expecting, which I think that makes perfect sense. So I'm really curious to try these as eyeshadows, and I hope that they perform well, because if they do, I can definitely see myself traveling with this palette in like companionship with something else. I would never only bring one palette. I mean, come on. Like, I'm not a minimalist in any way, so one palette is not going to be enough, but I could absolutely see this being great together with other things. So I'm going to start with the biggest of the brushes here. This is a fluffy brush that is actually like a good size for my eyes to be a big fluffy brush. So it's not the largest brush, but I feel like because it is a little bit tapered and it doesn't like poof out, I think this is going to be a good size. So I'm actually going to take, I was going to take the same shade, but I was like, you know what, let me not use that shade again. Let's start with the shade here called Reminder, because I just want to test it out. I feel like some people would probably love this as a contour shade. Again, I'm not someone who contours, so I'm not going to do that, but that is very nice and pigmented and very smooth. And this brush also is very, very, very soft. So far, I love the quality of these brushes, and I really like the brush set that I have from Blendbunny as well. You probably don't see me use them as much as my Rephr brushes because I feel like the shapes are, like, I'm just very picky when it comes to brushes, and once I've found a brush that I love, I tend to just reach for that brush for the purpose that it is that I like to use it for. But this is really, really nice. Okay, I love that. That is such a unique color. It's almost like a, I don't know, a purple-based brown gray? I don't know. I don't know, but it's very, very unique and very pretty. And again, like I said before, it could definitely be used as a contour. I think a lot of people are gonna love this as a contour shade. And this is definitely not the first shade in this palette that I would reach for, like if I wasn't reviewing it, but I really wanted to try it because I felt like it was such a unique tone. I'm gonna go ahead and just smoke this out underneath my eye as well, and then I'll see if I can try 2 more shades to deepen this up with, just to, you know, try as many as possible. And then of course we're gonna do 2 of the shimmers slash highlighters on the lid as well, so we can see what those look like as eyeshadows. So we're gonna call this good with this shade. I don't think I'm gonna be using any of the other brushes because I feel like the shapes aren't exactly what I'm looking for like an eye look. I think this would probably be a really nice like contour brush if you're, like I said, if you're into that. I certainly wouldn't know how to use that. If you do, then I think you would really like it. I'm gonna take a Rephr number 14 and I'm gonna go into, let's see, what shall I use to deepen this up with? I feel like I should go with the cool tones, so I think I'm gonna grab Here and Now, and then we'll do In the Plan maybe after. So let's go ahead and see what this one is gonna do. This one is definitely darker than the first one I put down. Just gonna use it as a very basic deepening shade here, nothing fancy. Just wanna see how it performs, build on top of that first shade. So far, we're looking very good. They're blending nice together. Not having any problems at all with patchiness, or, I mean, I wasn't expecting to either. I think these are looking great together. Taking some of this underneath my eye as well, just so we can deepen it up underneath. Okay, I am very, very impressed so far. And lastly, I'm gonna take the shade called In the Plan, which is the cool tone, more like dark gray black. The other one seems to be just like a black, but this one feels more like a gray black. So I'm gonna basically just use this in the very outer corner of my eye just to see how much depth I'm able to get with this. On the eyes, it's definitely looking just like a black. So maybe on the eyes, they're both gonna look the same. I'm not really sure, but it's doing exactly what I wanted to do. Wow, that is such a nice formula for a black. Super easy to work with, goes on the eyes very, very nicely. These feel so nice. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but they just feel very smooth on the eyes. Like the texture of the shadows feel pleasant on my eyelid, which probably sounds weird, but when you've tried a lot of eyeshadows and you come across a formula that's just like butter, it's pleasant to work with, it's pleasant to put on the eyes, it just feels really good. And that's exactly how I feel about this. So, I mean, that looks great. You can't tell me otherwise. I might have to do a little bit more blending just on the upper edges, but for now, I'm gonna leave it here, and I am going to put on some glitter primer because I do that with all shimmers, and I'm gonna use the brush that is in here. I'm not sure this is gonna become my favorite flat brush because it's like one of those very kind of slick brushes. It doesn't have any grip to it, and I feel like for myself, especially with the shimmer formulas that I tend to work with that are a little bit more textured, I feel like this brush is maybe not going to work with those formula as much as it might work with this one. I'm sure it's going to work with this formula though, because it came with a collection, so I'm sure it's going to work great. So let's see, let's use two shades. Let's go with, I guess, the gold ones maybe, since I'm wearing gold jewelry, that would make sense. So let's start with this one, which is the one that I used on my face as well. I'm gonna do that basically in the middle, a little bit towards the front, and then just blend it outwards. That is a really pretty color. Of course, these are, you know, meant to be multi-purpose, so they're not going to be like the most sparkly or duochromy or anything like that shadows, but if you're someone who likes neutrals and you do neutral looks a lot, I think you're gonna love this palette as an eyeshadow palette, honestly. I think the tones in here are really, really nice and gonna flatter a lot of different people and a lot of different skin tones. So far, I'm really liking this. And just for the spot that I have in the front, I'm gonna again take the shade called Cheers so we can see on the eyes like how different these two colors are. This one is definitely more of a, like a lighter, I mean, duh. It feels like more of a cool tone shade than the gold, but it still has a very slight kind of champagne-y look to it. I'm struggling a little bit more to pick this one up on a brush. I feel like it's a little creamier, and I feel like a different brush would probably work better with this color in particular. I'm gonna just try to pick this up on my Rephr 21 instead and see if that works better, because this is a natural hair brush that's a little more, it's got a little more grip to it, and already I feel like that is a lot easier. So like the brushes you use are going to make a big difference in, you know, not only how they pick up on your brush, but also how they apply because of how they pick up on the brush. And I feel like this brush is definitely doing a better job with this formula. Not that it doesn't work with the other one, but I felt like I had to really dig into the pan in a way that I don't have to with this one. But these are looking so nice together. I'm just gonna go back in with the middle shade just to make sure I get a good blend between the two. And then just going back in with the black shade to just make sure I get a blend between the matte and the shimmer. Taking that first brush again and just going over the very top edge. And just because I can, I'm gonna take some of the shade called Memories as well, which is the more silvery shade. I'm just gonna put a little bit of that just on the front portion of my lower lash line. I don't want a lot, I just kind of wanna test it out and see. That is picking up and applying really nicely, even on a dry brush here. Now let's see if I'm able to put on some of these gems. I'm not sure which ones I wanna use or where I wanna put them, so I'm just gonna kind of see what happens here. I think I've just kind of come to the conclusion that I don't really like the self-adhesive rhinestones because I find them just so hard to like pick up and apply properly. This is not working out very well for me. You know what? Scrap those. I think if I'm gonna try these, I would kind of take them off and then try to rub them between my finger to get like the actual stick off of it and then use glue to apply them because these are just so annoying. So instead, I'm just gonna take some of my Amazon ones because these are just, for me, so much easier. So I'm gonna do one giant one on the outside of my eye, on each eye. And when I say giant, I mean giant. That is a very, very large rhinestone. But I did that once not that long ago and I thought it looked really cute. So I'm gonna do it again. And I think those are actually pretty even. And then I think I'm gonna do like 3 little mini ones just in the inner corner. Something like this, and I'm just gonna do some black liner and mascara and some lashes, and I'll be right back and kind of tell you my thoughts on this. All right, so the look is all done. If you're asking about my lashes, I don't know. I know they're from Unicorn Cosmetics. I don't know which style they are. They could be the Unicorn Wings ones. They also might be, I just dropped something, which I saw that coming. Let's see, could it be these maybe? No, I don't think it's these. I have so many of these. I really don't know which ones these are. They could also be maybe the Toxic Brat ones. Maybe that's what these are. That would kind of make sense because they kind of look like what I remember those look like, but I also could be wrong. But this is the final look. I did put some nude in my waterline. It's not really a nude, it's more like a peach. This is from ColourPop. It's the shade called Peach Fuzz. So yeah, so my thoughts with this is that I think the formulas in here are absolutely beautiful. I think for myself, when I'm gonna reach for this palette, it's going to be mostly to use the mattes on my eyes and the shimmers on my face. I feel like for me, the shimmers aren't what I look for in an eyeshadow. They're definitely more of what I look for in a highlighter. So I'm still definitely excited to have these, and I can definitely see myself using these quite a bit, and I will for sure bring this traveling next time because I think there are so many beautiful tones in here. This is a beautiful bronzer shade, so if I were to bring this palette, I probably wouldn't even bring a bronzer because I could see myself just using this one. I think for like other purposes on the face, I'm not going to be using this on my face other than for a bronzer because I don't really use these kind of powders on my face. It's just not what I do. I like to keep my base pretty simple. I don't contour. I don't do a lot of, you know, shading and highlighting and stuff like that. But if you do, there's so many beautiful colors in here. And I think if you just want this as an eyeshadow palette too, you would really like it because it is absolutely beautiful. And I think that she did a really good job with this as always. And I'm excited to have it in my collection. I do have an affiliated code with Blendbunny. I probably forgot to say that in the beginning of the video. It's just Annette and it will save you some money off. So I think that's pretty much going to be my thoughts. Let me know if you picked this up already. Let me know if you're interested in this palette. yeah, I like it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Is it going to become like a daily for me? Probably not, just because I'm reviewing so many eyeshadow palettes. And like I said, it's not going to be probably a face palette for me personally, just because of how I do my makeup. But I still think that it is a beautiful, beautiful palette, and I'm very happy to own it. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some more Blendbunny content, I'll put my playlist up on the screen. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.